Character Power, Chapter 9, Spiritual Qualities. The seventh of the several classes of character qualities is that known as the spiritual qualities. The term spiritual as here used means pertaining to the soul or spirit and concerned with the spiritual principle from which all things proceed. The several general qualities composing that class are shown in the diagram. You are now asked to consider each of the above stated qualities composing the class of the spiritual qualities. Spirituality. Spirituality, in the true sense, consists of the unfoldment in consciousness of the recognition and realization of the actual being and eminent presence of the ultimate spiritual principle of being, from which all things proceed and which all things live and move and have their being. This spiritual consciousness is based on an intuitive faith that knows and not merely believes. It proceeds from a spiritual awakening, which brings the I am I of the individual into direct contact with the universal spiritual principle of being or power. It is arrived at by spiritual evolution, by the unfoldment of the spiritual faculties or powers which are latent within every individual and which are capable of being developed and cultivated by intelligent effort. By preparing the soil, supplying nourishment and water, and placing the growing thing so that it will catch the life-giving rays of the sun of spirit, you will aid materially in its growth and development. Spirituality in this sense is a most positive character quality, as all know who have carefully investigated the matter. It is not a mere goody-goody state of mind, nor is it bound up with ecclesiasticism. Instead, it is a soul state in which the being and presence of the spiritual principle of power is recognized, realized, and also manifested in action. A prominent man once said that the practical mystic is a man to be reckoned with in any and all walks of life. The truly spiritual man is a tower of strength and a reservoir of power. The great leaders of the race, the men of destiny, have been men in whom spiritual consciousness has been awakened. It is true that in many cases they have afterward misused their power and misdirected its energies, but their power originally came from spiritual sources nevertheless, and its subsequent misdirection and misapplication brought about its own punishment. You will be made stronger, better, and more efficient if you will encourage and open yourself to the inflow of spiritual consciousness. You may do this in or out of the churches, in or out of the established forms of religious practice. Spiritual consciousness is a matter of the inner experience and not of the outer form. Man is better, stronger, and more efficient by reason of opening his soul to the inflow of the infinite, and by living up to the best that he finds awakened within himself as the result of this. As for the particular forms or creeds through which men seek to express and manifest their intuitions of spiritual consciousness, the present writers feel in accord with the ancient Oriental sage who said, "There is but one supreme being. Though men worship many semblances and pictured forms of that formless one, though they give many names to the nameless one, though they give many descriptions of that indescribable one. There are many paths to that one, but there is only one goal and destination. In worshiping their own highest conception of God, men worship the principle of reality, which is over and above all of their possible conceptions. To that one, all worship arises, even from altars erected to the worship of men's pitifully conceived deities with their petty images and childish pictures. There is but one, though men call it by many different names and explain it in many different ways. The deficiency negative of spirituality is known as lack of spirituality and is marked by an absence of the characteristics of the positive quality. Here, the spiritual faculties are asleep, the spiritual intuition undeveloped. This state may exist in the case of the formal church member, as well as in the unbeliever or in anyone in whom the higher consciousness has not been awakened. Real religion is a matter of inner experience and not of outer formalism, with its creeds, rites, and observances. The absence of spiritual consciousness is a weakness and is negative in effect and results. The excess negative of spirituality is known as perverted spirituality, which is marked by gross superstition, unreasoning credulity, religious vagaries, fanaticism, the running after new religions and strange doctrines, the cultivation of the so-called psychic powers of doubtful value or even of harmful effect, the joining of strange cults and the craze for new isms, ologies, and inspired doctrines. This perversion often takes on the form of pathological religion. It may be relieved or cured by the proper addition of logical thought, observation, deduction, judgment, and discrimination, and above all, by the cultivation of the consciousness of the reality of the I am I, and of its relation to and correlation with the universal principle of being. When the gods come, the half-gods disappear. Reverence. Reverence consists of profound respect and esteem manifested toward that which is deemed sublime and sacred. It is the feeling or emotion entertained by men toward the subject or object of their highest conceptions of being and reality. It is the obeisance of the soul made to its source and origin, the veneration accorded by the finite manifestation toward the infinite manifested. It is a worthy emotion and tendency and is expressed by man in his various forms of worship. In its highest and purest forms, it is accompanied only by love, all fear having been cast out. In its lower forms, fear plays a prominent part. The positive nature of this quality is lessened in the degree that fear is present. It becomes the more positive in its nature and effect in the degree that fear is banished and love and confidence has taken its place. Reverence, rightly manifested and rightly understood, is a positive quality and tends to make you stronger, better, and more efficient. It is worthy of development and cultivation. The deficiency negative of spirituality is known as lack of reverence, which is characterized by a greater or less degree of irreverence, or the mental and emotional attitude directly opposed to that of reverence as described above. The excess negative of reverence is known as superstitious awe, which consists of base fear, terrible dread, and superstitious terror arising from crude superstitious beliefs in and conceptions of supernatural entities or things. Superstition means misguided or unenlightened religious feeling or belief, or credulous belief in supernatural things. Awe means reverential fear or dread. Fear is the characteristic element of all forms of superstition. And as we have seen, fear is essentially a negative quality, weakening in its effects. Superstitious awe sometimes also attaches itself to the individuals posing as prophets, preachers, and inspired teachers of mysterious doctrines or religions, or even to the dignitaries of some of the more familiar forms of ecclesiastical organization. Fear and awe are the main elements of the emotional feeling arising from such causes. Fear is negative and renders one weaker, worse, and less efficient. Love and confidence are positive and render one stronger, better, and more efficient.